Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are having a look at another devblog for the Summer Quest event, and this is for the Leopard 2AV, or specifically the Leopard 2AV PT19T19AV, since if you have a look at the prototype Leopard series, or just Leopards in general, you'll realize there are hundreds of the damn things, with many different variants, which is why the Germans, when it comes to War Thunder, will never run out of Leopards, even if they're all very similar to each other. This vehicle is going to be an event vehicle for Germany at rank 6, so you'll have to grind out all the modifications for it, and also, in order to get it, you'll need 8 marks of distinctions for tankers, and also, in order to sell it, you'll have to get to the 10 marks of distinctions for tankers as well. After the other PT, which was added for the Germans, which was incredibly strong, then also you have the 2A4 premium, which comes in. Another Leopard to add to the mix will obviously improve the lineup even more. This one is slightly different in some areas, but mainly is going to be very similar to the 2A4. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. The Leopard 2AV was a prototype tank design which was submitted to the US Army competition, where it competed against the XM1, which was of course the predecessor of the Abrams MBT, at the Aberdeen Proving Ground. The tank is a further development of the Leopard 2K project. The American Army specialists involved in the project advised to increase the tank's protection, which by the beginning of the 70s was inadequate to meet modern challenges. In 1977, a version of the Leo 2K with a modified hull and turret was submitted for testing in the US under the designation Leopard 2AV. The prototype went overseas as 2 experimental chassis and 3 finished turrets. The tank was armed with a 105mm L7A3 rifled gun developed in Great Britain. After the tests ended, the tank was equipped with a 120mm Rheinmetall gun right there at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. It was this version that later went into series production under the designation of the Leopard 2. So you've got there 2 experimental chassis with 3 finished turrets, making 6 separate variants of the Leopard that could easily come. It's amazing how many Leopard 2s are out there. I have this wonderful diagram which basically shows how many Leopards are around the place, and it's just absolutely nuts. So the Leopard 2AV that we're getting into the game is looking like it's going to be a handful for people playing against it. As somebody who has played stuff like the M1 Abrams, the Leopard 2A4, the SDRV-121, and many others around the BRs, such as the T80B, I've got to say the Leopard 2A4 and now the Leopard 2AV, and also all of the other vehicles around that BR for Germany, are incredibly strong for their BRs. The only way that they struggle is in a full up tier, and even then they have the firepower and mobility to be able to still be useful in many battles. This one won't be any different. Even though this has the 105mm L7A3 instead of the 120mm, what they've decided to give it is DM33. So the DM33 will be good, or if not as good as the rounds on the 120 that the Leopard 2A4 has. It also talks about the armor that this thing will have, talks a lot about spaced armor, not a lot about the actual armor on the inside of it, but it does say it should have as good protection as the Leopard 2A4, and of course it still has the similar chassis and also the similar engine. So this thing is basically just a Leopard 2A4 with a slightly different reload and a slightly different round when it's fully upgraded. The problem with this vehicle will be the same problem as all of these event vehicles at the start. When it is just an event vehicle, it won't have access to a fully spaded setup, it won't have access to its APFS-DS, you'll be sat on HeatFS. This thing also fires HESH as well, but 105mm HeatFS versus a lot of targets around its BR, since this thing's either going to be 9.7 or 10.0, is going to be really rough for it in general. It's not going to be too fun to play. I've been playing the Galbatash recently at 9.3. I don't know why that vehicle is 9.3, it should be at least 9.0. And facing a lot of the 2A4s, the terms, anything with the RA is just a pain when you only have HeatFS stock. And the 2AV will be no different. It'll be slightly better than some, but it still will be bad. But once you get that DM33, once you get the mobility rocking, this thing will be great. The interesting thing is it does talk about it has the FCS engine and armor layout corresponding to the early Leopards of the second series, so we'll have to see if that means that it'll get thermals or not. My guess is it won't. It'll probably be similar to the other PT where it only gets night vision, but you never know when it comes to this vehicle in general. It might have access to at least Gen 1 gunner thermals, which will help people be able to shoot around the place. If you want a taste of what top tier is like and you don't want to spend $60 and you don't want to grind through it, this is probably your best option, being able to have the Leopard 2AV. But for experienced players or players who play with full lineups, this thing is going to be another godsend. It's just another MBT to add to your German lineup, which is already full of really good MBTs. I don't know why anybody ever complains about the 2A4 or any of the vehicles like it. It's a fantastic vehicle and incredibly good in the 10.0 matchmaker. I'm hoping eventually a lot of the MBTs at 11.0 go to 11.3 so 10.0 can really thrive, because there's a lot of really good vehicles around it. The 2A4s, the Terms, the T80s, the Challengers as well, which always get disregarded for some reason, even though they're pretty good vehicles. And then even stuff like the ZTZ series from the Chinese that you can throw into the area. So eventually, in maybe a few updates time, the 10.0 BR bracket might actually be incredibly strong for a lot of nations, which usually means it's quite fun to play and generally quite meta-defining, meaning that 9.3 and 9.7 will get eaten by the likes of 10.0 and 10.3, which might already be happening after my matches in the Galbatash. There was a lot of 10.0 and 10.3 matches already in that area. So the Leopard 2AV will just add to that. It'll just make it nicer for, the people who play Germany. I hope this thing doesn't get the Leo 2PL treatment though, where because it's an event vehicle and because it is a vehicle that is more readily available than the standard ones, they try and knock its BR down over and over again, because this thing, just like the 2PL, will not deserve the BR reductions, and they'll just keep giving it better and better shells to try and balance it, but there's no need. This thing will be fantastic. This thing will work very well. Whatever happens to it, it will be a very stable vehicle, and it will work extremely well in the game. I hope that people enjoy it, just like I've enjoyed the Leopard series of vehicles, all the way from the standard 2K to even the STRV 122B. All of them are just really fun to play, and just kind of the standard when it comes to MBTs for the NATO side of things for top tier. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman675, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Jerry Prevolt, Megadino King, Orange Tail, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Uncle Bean, Sem Arslan, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.